Employers of Reddit, what is the most FK'd up thing you have caught your staff doing? NSFW. Worked at a very large software company when I came out of university. My team had considerable turnover and were in need of a manager in the quality assurance department. MR. X is hired. Resume is impeccable. Well dressed, yada yada yada. 3 weeks into his employment he comes to me and asks for $5 for lunch, claiming that he'd forgot his wallet. Turns out that he asked 90% of the people on our floor for $5 and collected about $360 in 2 hours. At the same time, he was scoping out all the spots that people kept change in their desks. That night, he returned, raided all the desks for change, it was estimated to be over $2,000, and stole 22 high-end development laptops. Never saw him again. Fake name. Fake SSN. Fake resume. Goddamn, that's some pretty good conning. How were you not suspicious of a man named MR X in the first place? I worked at a startup many years ago. We were located in what had previously been a small motorcycle dealership. Because of that design, the front had 2 big windows where they presumably had motorcycles on display. The company mirrored the windows and turned those 2 spaces into a conference room and the VP's office. You couldn't see a damn thing inside those windows with the mirroring. We'd be in the conference room and people would come by and start fixing their hair and junk. So the owner of the building comes by one night and sees the VP boffing one of his employees on his desk. The thing about mirrored windows is they only work if there's light outside to mirror. It was dark out and his office light was on. So their shenanigans were in full display of the traffic out front. In what was literally a showroom window. Had a co-worker who managed a skate shop. He got fired when he let a kid run the shop while he met a girl at the bus stop out front, then FK'd her behind the shop. My father once caught a drunk employee masturbating on a colleague's printer. In the colleague's office. An open space office. My dad once caught one of his female employees sniffing other people's shoes. Edit. Because everyone is asking why people had their shoes off. They worked with very expensive machines that create microchips and couldn't get them dirty. So they all had to change into sterile suits, kind of like Intel. They all had to take off their shoes and put them in locker room. On the internet nobody knows you're a dog. Nobody. I used to own a pizza place and in our basement is where we stored everything. I sent one of the kids downstairs to get boxes and about 20 minutes go by and I'm thinking, where the hell is Jen? I send one of the guys who works for me downstairs to go check what's going on. Mind you, it's a Friday night and we are jam-packed. 10 minutes goes by and I'm thinking, alright, enough is enough. I go downstairs myself. I see the girl who I originally sent downstairs blowing the guy who works for me who I just sent down and also getting railed out by some other guy who I didn't even know. We lost 2 employees that night. This is so much better when you read it backwards. I see the girl blowing the guy and also getting railed out by some other guy who I didn't even know. I go downstairs myself. We are jam-packed. 10 minutes goes by and I'm thinking, alright, enough is enough. I sent one of the kids downstairs. I used to own a pizza place. We caught one of our bakers brewing pineapple beer in the upright prover. She was then getting raucously drunk and trying to fight the other bakers. It was pretty f-king good pineapple beer. But we fired her. It was pretty f-king good pineapple beer. But we fired her. Sounds like a raise was in order. Caught a guy washing his dick in the sink. We let it slide. But we called him Soap Dick from then on. Edit. Haha. Let it slide. Used to be a supervisor at a poultry processing plant. I work construction for a living. And while the boss and myself were working on one job while 2 others from our crew were supposed to be laying hardwood at another location. Well, my boss receives a call from the homeowner telling us immediately to head to her house. We get there. And these 2 assholes have brought in a go-kart and had the engine dismantled. And for the past 2 weeks no real work had been done. Homeowner asked if we were getting paid to work on go-karts or her house. They were promptly fired. Did they really think they'd get away with that? I'm picturing them with this thing sitting in a family's living room while they put down hardwood in the kitchen. Homeowner: sir, why did you bring a go-kart to install my new floor? Worker: don't question my methods. I'm the professional. Saw a member of my staff heat up some roast chicken in the microwave in the stockroom. I went back in a few minutes later and she had taken it out of the plastic container and used a shoebox that had been lying around on the floor for a week as a plate. After she finished eating it, she put the bones in the shoebox and left the grease-covered box on the floor and went home. She is the most dirty f-king weirdo I have ever met. Worked in a small cafe. Registered sign that had big windows at the entrance facing a bank parking lot across the street. On his first day, this guy tells me he's going somewhere, doesn't ask for a break. Just tells me he's leaving. I watch him go across the street, wait in the bank's ATM area for a few minutes, then meet a guy for 30 seconds and come back across the street and straight into the bathroom of the cafe. Registered sign. Sniff, sniff, cough, and out he comes into the very fancy and very tiny cafe. Registered sign. When I told him to go home, he said okay, but by law you have to pay me for the entire shift. He wasn't wrong, but he was certainly an asshole. Not me specifically, but my dad has owned his own company for a while and I grew up being involved with it. I remember when I was young, sometimes I'd have to go to work with my dad and he'd let me play around on one of the computers while he worked. I remember one time, I'm just dicking around on Neopets or something, when I click the drop down bar on the browser. I'm young as shit and I know the sites weren't allowed. It was literally a bunch of blatant PRN sites. Some typed out in various cases as if that made a difference. I just remember it being .sx, girls, girls, etc, etc. I was worried it was my dad doing it and that I'd get in trouble if I brought it up, so I didn't. About a year later, my dad fired one of his co-workers. I didn't find out till I got the talk it was for the PRN. The dude would come into work early, beat off, stay late, beat off, and act like he was doing extra work. Once when I worked at IHOP, I was closing and went out to the dumpster to throw out some garbage and found my totally hot manager blowing the head chef. Head chef. Nice. Thanks for my first gold. Kind internet stranger. IHOPs have chefs? Edit. This is my top comment. And I posted it from my fiance's account. Orthefka. Edit. 2. And now you give him gold? FCK you guys. When I worked nights at Sonic, there was a night when one of the cooks knew his parents were going to give him a drug test. And we all knew he wouldn't pass it. So one of the other cooks went to the bathroom and gave him his sample in a styrofoam cup. As he handed it to guy getting tested, he said, "Here, I should pass." They then decided to put it in the steamer to keep it warm and viable. He didn't pass. Haha, obviously. When I worked at Sonic, everyone was on drugs, stemming from pot to heroin. It was crazy. My dad caught one of his employees stealing cash from him as well as others. He suspected it initially, as he would be missing $10 here and there. But he got bolder and started taking more. So my dad got a little motion activated camera to put in his office and put $300 in his wallet. At the end of the day, there was only $200. Checked the camera and there she was. The worst part is, when he confronted her, he started with, "I know what you did. And I know it's been going on for a long time." That was the point at which she admitted to drinking every day at lunch. Thinking that's what he meant. She's a dental hygienist. A guy at my last job was spending his workdays doing other people's taxes on tax software that he pirated on his work computer. He got caught because he was eating up tons of company bandwidth. After he was fired, they found a ton of PRN, movies and music on that same computer. What a weirdly responsible and productive way to screw around at work. I'm not the boss, but I know it happened. The assistant manager at my old bar job stayed behind one night after her shift drinking with her boyfriend and 2 other customers. They were pouring their own drinks, shots, pints of lager and a lot of whiskey and vodka. After just dancing around and talking, the assistant manager decided it would be funny for her and her friend to strip and run along the bar naked. She was caught on CCTV and the big boss sacked her. I was friends with the supervisor and he showed me the tape. It was hilarious. She was hired back 2 months later by the big boss, given her old job with even more responsibility. Insane. Working in the military, I watched over a bunch of the people who didn't have somewhere official to work. They'd do things like escort civilians around while they did contracting work. We had guys come from the prison to do yard work for their work release. I caught one of the escorts, female, having sex with one of the male inmates. Outside. Standing up in the middle of a field. Having sex. I asked her about it and she said she was bored and she thought he was attractive. Totally consensual. Women were no longer allowed to escort the prisoners. Super weird. Oh. I remembered one that my friend told me. He works in IT for the military and they were looking at network traffic and noticed something weird. Turns out a military guy on base was looking at child PRN from a work computer. Stupid FCKS. Managed a gas station for about 3 years. Came in one night during night shift unannounced because I had forgotten to email a report to my boss earlier in the day. Walk into the office in the back and my 2 employees, one a 50-year-old man who had a wife and kids, the other an 18-year-old girl who had been out of high school for 2 months, are just going the FCK at it on the desk. I flipped tea. How the FCK does this happen in real life? Christmas party a month ago. Employee was smoking crack in the bathroom. I work at a sports bar cantina style spot. We have jello shots in big syringes and they're a big hit. Especially with girls. Well, one day I go out to the back patio and there's a crowd like someone is having a dance battle. Except it's the middle of the day and we're playing classic rock. I take a closer look and a few of the employees and regulars are watching one of our security guards inject the jello shot into his ass. He was off the clock and it was funny. I used to own a restaurant. We had a cook selling drugs out the back door. People were still knocking back there looking for him months after he was fired. We had one cook who had a key to lock up. When I came in one day I noticed that the till was short and it looked like some wine bottles were missing. When I ran the time reports from the previous day it showed this guy clocking in and out at something like 3 AM. The dumbest thought you had to clock in for the register part of the computer to open. And he clocked in under his own name to snatch some cash. Yep. Got fired. I guess these are more dumbass things than FK'd up things. Till everyone either gets laid or sturbits at work except me. I manage a home health company. I discovered that one of my caregivers stole an entire morphine drip bag from a dying client of ours. He had 10,000 units of morphine in her system when she was drug tested. And she sold the rest on the street. 10,000 units of morphine in her system. I'm not really knowledgeable in this field. But wouldn't that kill you? Had a receptionist come into my office once to beg me not to fire her for spending so much company time browsing for lesbian PRN. Not sure why. But she was under the impression that I had caught her in the act. I hadn't. Her confession came as a complete surprise. The first thing she said to me after closing the door was, first of all, I'm not gay. Okay. As if that would have been the issue. In case anyone cares. I just laughed. Told her not to do that on company time. And sent her back to her desk. Neither of us ever mentioned it again. Close bracket. Edit. Whoa. Thanks for the gold. I'm not entirely sure what that means. But I'm pretty stoked about it nonetheless. Also, for the record. 1. I'm a dude. 2. She was reasonably hot. And 3. I'm 98.6% sure she was not hitting on me. Are you a woman? Because maybe she was just letting you know she was available. We had a guy and girl, both married to different people, that hung out a bunch at work. They always took smoke breaks together and ate lunch together. Well, one day someone caught them in an act while walking in from the parking garage. The act was him nailing her from behind while she was leaning against the parking garage wall. Evidently she had a short skirt with easy access. They were both canned 30 days later. Edit. This happened during a smoke break, so it was during business hours. Edit 2. This happened at a fairly large office building. The parking garage is 2 stories and can probably fit over 1,000 cars. They were both canned 30 days later. I am a kitchen manager. One time, last year, one of my shtier cooks came in with a water bottle filled with pop or something weird. I noticed him drinking it a lot while he was cooking. He started slowly becoming disoriented and extremely talkative and happy. So I pulled him into the office and said, "Joey, what's in your water bottle? Would you fire me if I said MDMA and vodka?" He asked. "Yes," I said with a look of disbelief and awe. "Yes, I would. You're free to leave immediately and you will no longer be employed with us." He laughed hysterically as he stumbled out of the building. Edit. Wow, that picked up fast. To answer some questions. 1. We say pop in Canada. 2. If there is any illegal substance being consumed by or being held by an employee, it's grounds for immediate termination. 3. MDMA is a more purified version of ecstasy. It's a mellower version of X but still makes you feel amazing. No, god, that would taste so awful, shudder. Worked at a musical instrument manufacturing company many years ago. There were very few women working on the brass wind manufacturing line. A lovely young lady was hired and the union assigned her to the brass wind line. One of the more senior employees demonstrated his disapproval, tough to tell which, by dropping his pants, grabbing his dick and asking her to blow his horn. It took a few days due to union machinations, but his employment was eventually terminated. Pest control technician here. There was a co-worker who was already up in the attic putting traps in the attic for the rat trouble they were having. He didn't know I was going to show up and inspect the attic myself to how they were getting in. I climbed the ladder and poked my head in to see him in the corner bent over like he was adjusting something. I didn't say anything and continued to get closer, and he turned around to see me looking at him taking a shitty in an old box because he couldn't make it out without him shitting himself. Getting the box wasn't hard at all. It was getting it through the house without the customer knowing. So we told her there was a dead squirrel in the box. Kid I worked with at an amusement park got caught selling acid to nearly 100 other employees. They didn't even find out about all his clients. Lots of acid. I work for a company that supplies big box stores with ice and the large cabinets that said ice is stored in. I walked into the warehouse to find several of my employees inside one of the glass door ice boxes, getting high. So I did what any good manager should do. I put a broom between the handles and left them there for a bit. TLDR. Turned an ice box into a hot box with employees inside. I walked in on someone masturbating. Much older guy. I'm a lady. His office door was locked, but I needed something from his office. I knocked for about 5 minutes. No response. Finally I took out the keys and took forever to open the lock. Sure enough. Boom. Jerking the chicken. Scarred for life. Edit. I'm not going to tell you where I work, but it's standard to unlock office doors if needed. Trust me. I have brothers. I would never go in a door without knocking for like 2 minutes at least. PSHH. Everybody knows that you put it away when somebody knocks. Minimize that window and spout off some work jargon. Dot. These damn Meg 129 documents. Oh sorry. Hi. Do you need something? Used to manage a Jamba Juice, West Coast smoothie place. Found out my employees would input the name CI on multiple receipts. Asked what it meant. Didn't get a straight answer. Eventually watched some videos and got some employees to fess up, meant spit in it. Apparently my workers would team up against the occasional irate customer and group spit into a smoothie before blending. We have Jamba Juice on the East Coast as well. When I was with HR we had to fire a guy after he was caught. For the second time. Jerking off into a sink in my office building. Said sink was about 15 feet from the front desk of an office that about 300 people work at. Not sure why we didn't fire him the first time he got caught. Not me, but my dad works at a pharmacy where he is the general manager. Just a couple of weeks ago he caught one of his co-workers stealing very heavy pain medications, having a brain fart and can't remember what they're called. Anyways, that's not the FK'd up part. Apparently the lady was pregnant and trying to kill the baby without anyone knowing. She tried to justify that she was getting divorced with her husband and didn't want to be carrying his kid.